I did a live stream the other night with some lovely American law tubers, and if I remember, I'll put a link to it in the description. But I was contacted because they said, "Hey Al, can you come on and talk about Baby Reindeer?" Now, being the top media lawyer that I am, I don't actually have a television, so I didn't at first realise what they were talking about. I thought it might be an animal rights thing. One of my favourite genres of YouTube video is unlikely animal friendships. So I was rather hoping it'd be something like, "Oh look, she's a baby reindeer and her best friend is a killer whale." But it wasn't. It was about a television programme and defamation. So let me explain. Netflix put out a programme, based on a stage play apparently, about somebody being stalked. This guy was being stalked by some sort of loopy lady. The thing is, at the beginning of the programme, they said, "This is a true story." Note, not "this is based on a true story" or "this is inspired by a true story." They said, "This is a true story." Now, apparently in the end credits, they did actually say some of the names and some of the events have been changed or recreated for dramatic purposes. But being Netflix, of course, well, I say of course, I only found out this from somebody else, apparently they like compress the end credits and things. So how many people will have seen that? But they didn't use the real stalker's name, although they did look an actress who looked very like the real person. But anyway, the real person has come forward and said, "This is all lies. It's not true. I have been defamed." And she's intimating she's going to bring a claim. Now, apparently she's instructed Chris Daw, who's an excellent barrister, a lot better than me on this sort of thing. So it's clearly serious. But the thing is, the question was, does she have a chance? Because there's quite a lot of issues here. I mean, the first thing is, it's a TV drama. It's obviously acted. It's obviously got fictional elements. And she wasn't named. So, does that make a difference? Well, this has cropped up before. It cropped up in that trial the other couple of years ago, Depp and Heard. What if you don't name the person who wants to sue you? Does that make a difference? Well, it all depends on how many people. If you can show that people would recognise and say, yes, that is definitely this person, then yeah, it can be defamatory. There was always an old joke in defamation that if you're writing a fictionalised account of somebody, you should always put in something in there that they wouldn't admit to. So, say something like, "Oh, this person, they have the protagonist be terrible in bed, so nobody's going to come forward and go, 'Yes, that's clearly me.'" But that doesn't necessarily get you out of it. So theoretically, if she can say, well, a lot of people will know this was me, and apparently they use like real tweets in the programme that people could search and then go, "Oh, this must be the real person." But in defamation generally, if you have to do a lot of research to sort of find out that it's defamatory, it's like, I don't know who this is talking about, but I'm going to go Google and do some internet sleuthing, and now I've found out. Generally, the courts say, well, no, we just take the offending item, whether it's a statement, a television programme, something written, we just go, well, what would your average person who's, not going to do all this research, they just sit down plonk down in front of the TV and say, right, I'm going to watch this. And then at the end, what do they think? If most people wouldn't know who the person was, then obviously their opinion of that person can't be lowered because they don't know who it is. But if you can show there's, people who did see it and would know it was her, then yeah, that can amount to a claim. Now, obviously, when you look at damages for defamation, the extent of the publication is, relevant to damages. Obviously, if it goes out to 1 million people, it's possibly more defamatory than if it goes out to 100 people. Although, not always, because, you might say something to one person and it has devastating effects. Say it's a job reference. Somebody asks you for a job reference and you lie about that person. Then you've just told one person, but that could cost them their career. I mean, I'll have to look at references and things because they attract what we call qualified privilege, which is a defence to defamation. If you make a statement where you're either under a duty to make the statement or the person receiving the information has a legitimate interest in receiving it, such as, a job reference, you're only liable for falsehoods if you did it with malice. In other words, if you either knew it wasn't true or you didn't care whether it was true or not. But in this particular case, so let's say, enough people identify her. What's her complaint? Well, she's saying, first of all, it was over-exaggerated. But they're also saying that it said in that programme that she was actually convicted and sent to prison. And she says that she wasn't. Now, how do you prove that? It can be quite, I mean, it would be easy for her to prove if she got like a DBS certificate, disclosure and barring service. That would show whether she had any convictions. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to get distracted because there's some dogs walking past. I'll try not to focus on dogs and continue doing. Hi, Hounds. Hello, afternoon. Oh, they're so cute. I wish you could see them. But yeah, so, obviously in defamation you have to prove that you've suffered serious harm as a consequence of the defamatory statement. And you have to prove that with evidence. However, the courts, if you accuse somebody of a criminal offence that attracts a sentence or can attract a sentence of 12 months or more, that is usually deemed to be, that's evidence that it would tend to, be defamatory. So, it would cause you harm. So, and, harassment and stalking are offences that can attract sentences in excess of 12 months. So that, if that is not true, is arguably defamatory. It's also defamatory to say somebody served a prison sentence if they haven't. But what's the defence going to be? Well, Netflix are saying that, this is substantially true. And it is a defence to show that something is substantially true. Doesn't matter that you got everything right. Say you got something wrong, but that doesn't really make any difference, okay? Because, the whole point about defamation is it lowers your reputation in the eyes of right-minded people. Remember, defamation's about reputation, not character. It doesn't matter how you are in reality. You can be the nicest person in the world. If people think you're, if the public at large think you're a terrible person, then it can be quite hard to defame you because it can't make it any worse. But in this particular case, let's say that they can show that the stalking element is true, but they've got it wrong about going to prison. Does that make it substantially true? Well, the test will be, would your average person watching going, oh no, I thought she was, I didn't see a real problem there. With all the stalking, that doesn't, affect my opinion. But now I know she's been to prison. Oh, yeah, that's really changed it, and now I don't like her. That will be, one of the defences if this ever goes to trial. I mean, the other defence is, can they argue it's in the public interest? Can they argue its opinion? Probably not. This is going to all hinge, if a claim is issued, on whether this is true or not. How far might a claim get? Well, no doubt Netflix, if she brings a claim, will try and strike it out. I mean, we don't have any official anti-slap laws in this country yet. But, the courts are very minded, about how slaps work. And they do have an inherent power just to strike out cases. Even if, as a matter of law, they're arguable, and as a matter of fact, it's an arguable case. They actually are allowed to say, you know what, it's just not worth it, this case. So even though you've got a potential claim, we're going to strike it out. Would they strike it out here? I don't think they'd strike out on the basis that it's a slap, because clearly somebody's saying, look, I have been defamed on an international public television platform. And, saying somebody is a stalker and somebody went to prison is highly defamatory. So this is something that I think, truth is going to be the issue. It's all going to turn on the facts of the case. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. I mean, I think this is one that if it actually the claim is issued, it'll be one heading to trial. Now, it may well be in disclosure that if they can sort of say, well, actually, okay, you didn't send 6,000 emails, you only sent 5,000, and you didn't do all these tweets, and you only turned up on his doorstep this many times, then, the argument will be about whether it's substantially true or not. And it might be that, if both sides are lawyered up, they'll probably be able to have a look and say, this is what might a judge think about this one. And sort of guess it. But it wouldn't surprise me actually if this is one that actually went all the way to trial. But there you go. If there's an appetite for this, because apparently this is, people are interested in this story, let me know and I can go into more detail. But that's where we are at the moment. Like I said, the big issue here is going to be, has she been identified? Because she effectively outed herself. So if you out yourself and go, yes, that's me, then anybody who watched it, who made the connection as a result of what you said, well, that's on you. So it'll be interesting to see if they can make the argument that, well, actually, unless she outed herself, nobody would, you know, only possibly people who actually knew the parties anyway would know about this. And then you argue and say, well, all his friends will be in his camp anyway, and all her friends will be in her camp anyway, and their opinions wouldn't change. So it doesn't matter whether it was defamatory or not, because it didn't actually have any material effect. But we'll just have to wait and see. So anyway, as always, hope you found that vaguely useful, vaguely interesting, and hopefully that vaguely recorded, unlike last time. Where am I today? This is something I called Hawk's Shaft. And that rather magnificent wheelhouse, which you'll notice is substantially taller than a lot of them, that's because they upgraded it and put in a massive, bigger steam engine. So they had to extend it all and extend the chimney and everything. So I'll get out of the way so you can have a better look at it.